Celeste. Whose pencil did I steal here? Okay.
Man, I can't believe it.
My mother always told me it'd be like this. This is great. This is it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, that song came from my wife. I stole it from a lyric. I mean, actually, it was a poem she wrote that was zinging me for running around the country too much, not enough time with the kids. And I just made it rhyme, put some music to it, and became #1.
Mr. Chapin, you said something in your concert about world hunger, about you helping with that. And I don't think that's much of a problem, because I feel if we can just improve agriculture in the underdeveloped countries, that ought to be sufficient to help it.
Well, it's interesting. You know, one of the things we're trying to make people aware of, both through World Hunger Year, which we founded 5 years ago, and the President's Commission on World Hunger, which I'm a member of, is the fact that there's so many myths about hunger. And one of them is that we got too many people and not enough food, and if we just grow enough food and stop the population expansion, that we'd have solved it. But this is belied very clearly by a country that you may have heard of called the United States of America, which has, we've got enough food to feed every American 6 times over, and yet we have 20 million Americans are malnourished, mostly children and old people. We did a study in Chicago that showed you take a Social Security check and the lower class level and subtract rent, heat, light, and phone. You end up with 19 cents a meal left over. And I don't care if you shop at McDonald's or you got, unless you got a nephew in the mafia, if you're an old person or something who's going to send you some money every week, you've got some real problems. So what we're really talking about is not the production thesis of hunger or the population thesis of hunger. We're talking about the fact that we have to have the abundancy of the world available to the people who need it. That's what an economic and a social and a political system is all about. And sadly enough, under communism or democracies or monarchies or dictatorships or fascism or any system, we've seen so many disruptions. And sadly enough, in our own system, people that are hungry are usually economically and politically powerless. It doesn't matter what system you're under. And what we've got to do is find a way that we're going to deal with that. So if we're serious as American citizens, what we've got to start doing is calling our bluffs and making sure that the reason for the economic system we have, the reason for the political system we have, is to get maximum goods and services to the majority of the people. That's why our founding fathers had a revolution in the first place. That's why we severed our ties with England. That's why we wrote up a Declaration of Independence, a Constitution, and a Bill of Rights. And unless those are manifested in our economic policy, unless they're manifested in our social policies, unless we do something different than save money in America by letting our old people go hungry or letting our children be malnourished, I think we're really not following the goals that we have. I don't think you would like to see that kind of situation continuing. So our founding fathers are very wise. They made this participatory democracy, and the idea was that all of us, at times of crisis, were going to be the source of the answers. We were going to be the ombudsman. We were going to be people smart enough to ask the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th question and care enough to keep asking those questions, because otherwise the solutions aren't going to be there. So we can't blame a Carter or a Kennedy or a Connolly or a Reagan or whatever in terms of not coming up with the answers. It really, the major failing of America right now is the fact that we do have these kinds of problems, and frankly, if I can be crass, we don't give a damn about the people that are suffering. And we can see this in Cambodia, in terms of another society far away, and we can see it here in America, and we can see it in virtually almost every civilized society in the world today. And I think it's a real comment and a real challenge for this generation, whether we're going to put that as part of our agenda or not.
What you said really makes sense, but I'm just a high school student, and I really don't see what I can do by myself to help this.
Ironically enough, I'm, I guess, a 3rd-level rock star. I mean, you know, way under the Beatles or the Eagles or whatever. But because I have been committed to this issue, and because I've not just raised money through benefits, but been there in Washington day in, day out at times when there's key things coming up, and an awful lot of senators and congressmen don't know who Harry Chapin is. Because I've been there, we were able to write up a resolution, lobby it through Congress, calling for a complete reevaluation of American food and hunger policy. I could give you example after example after example of individuals with no power at all, but because they were committed, had a dramatic impact on their world. Ironically enough, probably the 2 most important human beings that ever lived had no giant political arms, no armies, no gigantic economic power. There was a fisherman from Galilee, and there was a crazy man who went from the slums of London back and forth to Germany. Jesus Christ and Karl Marx. You don't have to believe in either system to realize that these people were tremendously potent because of the power of their ideas and the power of their commitment. I could tell you that I get asked a lot of times how I can change the world. I've also been asked a lot of times how I can be a rock and roll singer. And do you see what's on the end of my fingers? Calluses. And what that means is if you're willing to play the guitar night in, night out for audiences of 3 people when you're coming up and finding that even your mother says it doesn't sound very good, the point is very simple. If you care enough, you can have an impact, finally. If you care enough, you can have an impact on your world. And I think the thing that makes all of us want to be alive is to matter. And the way you matter is care enough about something so you keep doing it. So all I would say is that if you're serious about becoming a rock and roll star or doing something about hunger, all you have to do is get in the process of dealing with it. Within an hour of discussion or a couple of weeks of reading some books, you would know 50 to 100 things that could be effective that you could do. The question is whether you're serious enough, care enough to have an impact. And as a matter of fact, whether you care enough about your own life, whether you care enough about your own life to make it matter. I would hate to be 75 years old, and it's one of the things that arms me, and say, if only I had, I wish I had, I wonder what my life meant. My credo, which might be interesting for you to think about, is when in doubt, do something. Because in the long run, we're not sure about a prior life or an afterlife. We're all hoping for that. But what we can do is maximize what we have in this brief flicker of time in the infinity and try to milk that and be hungry in a different kind of way, hungry for experience, hungry for meaning. And I think you as a high school student could start. I wish I could give you a glib answer. What we're talking about is finding a process for your life that matters. And you can be terribly, terribly effective if you want to be.